Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, my name is Mark and I'm a professional VFX artist and film director. In the past, as a VFX artist, I've worked on many cool projects like the ones you see on the screen now. Before we properly begin this video, I would like to thank Film Convert for sponsoring this video. I am working on a fan footage short film, and the shots you saw in the intro of this video were the test shots I made before we move on to production. This is a short film adaptation based on the game Labyrinthine by Valco Game Studios. Many of my previous videos also featured set extensions, which is what this video is about. The thing is, I would absolutely love to shoot everything practically. However, at this stage of my directing career, and I'm sure many of you guys are in the same boat as well, I just can't afford it. The expenses of hiring a crew, a cast, the location fees, the insurance, and so many other things is just practically impossible when you're self-funding a project. So the first thing you have to nail is the script. But once you have a good script, it can be incredibly hard to shoot the visuals that you had in mind originally when you were writing the script because of the limitations of the budget. However, I really want to do both for this short film. So after months of writing the script, I really want to be able to do justice for the visuals because I want the audience to be fully immersed and get lost in the film's world. So this is when visual effects and more specifically set extensions come in. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Rebus Render Farm for helping me rendering these shots. So the environment is created from 3D models I purchased either on CD Trader or Fab. I made the ground as procedural as I could because there will be many shots within this maze, and with this setup I will be able to quickly change where the path is and just build the hedge maze around it. The ground is made of two textures, one for the path and one that's mainly underneath the hedges. The path is this rocky ground surface. I made one brighter version and one darker version and combined the two so there is some discoloration. The surface under the hedges is this forest ground. I added displacement and made the resolution 8K, which makes the ground look super detailed. For the hedges, I wanted them to look overgrown and not looked after at all. So the base is made of two bushes I combined and then lined them up to look like a maze. Then I imported two highly detailed hanging plant 3D models and randomly scattered them in every hedge wall. There is a virtual camera, but I will talk more about this in part 2. Then in terms of the lighting, I looked at the game for reference, which looks like this. But I also looked at references from films like Harry Potter to see how a big budget film would approach lighting scenes like these. When working with the Redshift render engine in Cinema 4D, the lighting and environmental fog basically works together. So I tested a lot of different lighting setups, but eventually landed on mostly top-heavy lighting. There is a very large source that's illuminating the sky, which I made the brightest light, so it looks like it's the moon's light. Then I added two top rectangle area lights, one that's quite long and stretches over the longer part of the path. And because the character turns around, I added another one behind him. The last light is the flashlight, which I animated based on the camera movement and kind of where the character would be pointing it. For each light, I can individually set how much it affects the environmental fog. So for example, I reduced it for the flashlight but kept the other ones mostly at 100%. Let's move on to comping these shots. So at the moment for compositing, I am stacking on effects that would affect how the actual footage looks. However, when we shoot the film, there will actually be characters integrated into the 3D environments. So let's start with motion blur. For the first shot, I actually added the motion blur in DaVinci Resolve. For the second shot, I exported a motion vector path, and I can use the Real Smart Motion Blur plugin, but the vector version. This looks way better because it's not relying on visible information, rather the vector movement. For the final shots, I will definitely use the vector motion pass. So the thing is, the reason why the second shot looks better, at least in my opinion, is because I did not turn on subsurface scattering for the leaves of the hedges for the first shot. So no light is actually penetrating through any of the leaves. They do in the second shot and it looks way better. Next, I made a simple gradient ramp and added texture to it by increasing the ramp scatter. That's the Luma matte for the chromatic aberration and radial blur. Then I added some lens dirt textures and added a lot of lens blur to them. For the second shot, everything is exactly the same. However, another thing I like better in this shot, although this will depend on the scene, is that the flashlight is more visible because I increased the amount it contributes to the environmental fog. But to make the lens dirt more integrated, I duplicated the footage and crushed both the black levels and the white levels. Then used this as a Luma matte for the lens dirt so it's more visible wherever the bright spot of the flashlight is. Then let's export these in Arri Log C color space and grade them in DaVinci. I have 5 nodes altogether. I'll start with the film convert one as that's how I began. I've set the camera profile to use Arri Alexa Mini Log C3. I've increased the exposure. I've settled on this film stock in the end, although I experimented with the others quite a bit. I increased the midpoint slightly, which makes the image a bit darker. Let's now go from the beginning. On the first node, I added some more contrast simply with the curves adjustment. Then on the next one, I balanced the colors a bit more using curves again. Finally, to make the colors pop a bit more, I increased the color boost to 10 on the next node. Lastly, I added Hazy plugin, which is another film convert plugin. I chose the Edge Glow filter style with quarter strength as I subtly softened the highlights. I then increased the intensity to 200, so doubled it, and that is the final grade. However, one last thing I added in DaVinci was this effect called JPEG damage, which basically gives compression artifacts to the footage, although I made them very subtle. And these are the shots again without any text. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. The film is planned to be released on the 31st of October, so on Halloween, but I will be uploading many behind the scenes videos before then. So if you want to follow along, then please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.